Okay, quick disclaimer before we get started. The Blockmates podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The information and opinions expressed on the podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Blockmates or its affiliates. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult with a financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Blockmates and its affiliates are not liable for any losses or damages incurred as a result of the reliance on the information or opinions expressed on this podcast. All right, looks like we're stable. Drag the full Savvy DeFi team in here. Gents, how's it all going? Maybe Alex will start with you so we don't all shout over each other and then we kind of go around the houses.
Everything's going well. Thank you for asking, Grant. How's everything going for you?
Yeah, really good. As I say, I was away last week, but I kind of wasn't away at the same time. So just playing catch up a little bit now, but kind of happy to be back doing this kind of thing. But yeah, thanks a lot for joining us. Roman, I know we've kind of tried to do this a few times in the past, but we both messed it up, I think, equally. So apologies on my front there, but I'm happy to finally meet. Nope, you're on mute.
Yeah, we've been trying to make this happen, and I was talking about my mic on mute. No, but I really appreciate you finding the time to talk to us, and we've been trying to make this happen for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you got access, you all good just before we get started? Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm good. Except my landlord today decided to start drilling my wall, so there's like a loud, obnoxious noise that I try to cut out.
every Friday every Thursday when we record like a weekly roundup with me, Jerry, and Dan's next door neighbor persistently goes out and blows the leaves off his lawn. Even in like summer, even in winter, when there isn't like any leaves there, he persistently does it. So I think people wait around for you to kind of go live and start doing some streaming before they annoy you. So, but yeah, gents, before we get stuck into it, I think it's always good to kind of set the scene because people come from all kind of weird and wonderful backgrounds and end up in this kind of extremely strange and niche and wonderful place that we work in all day. So, Alex, can you give us a bit of background on how you've got to this point where you are now with Savvy and maybe kind of like a day-to-day of Savvy, and then move on to Roman, then around the table? Just give a bit of background.
Let's actually have Roman give the background, because the project actually all started with Roman, as we have Akshay's roommates hopping in the background. A good thing it's on blurry. Yeah, Roman, do you want to go ahead and start us since you were the inception of the project?
Yeah, totally. So my name is Roman. I like to typically introduce myself as like a recovering ex-banker. I used to work for JP Morgan at the private bank for a few years, but I actually got there because of my intense love for Bitcoin and blockchain. So like most people, I learned about it probably somewhat early, but dismissed it as like magic internet money. And then I realized like somewhere in my journey that, oh man, this like actual tangible benefits to using this new technology. And I kind of tried to dive in deep, and I realized that I don't know enough about macroeconomics to really make a difference here. And actually, Bitcoin is the reason why I went into banking in the first place, to learn the banking system and then come back and build something cool. So I got into banking because of Bitcoin, and then came out and started building stuff. Big fan of remittances. So my first project was Stellar-based, using XLM, BTC, and ETH, and allow people to build something really cool where they could use a QR code to scan, and the merchant would get USDC on Stellar, regardless of which chain was used to make the payment. So then, I had some success there. Decided that I really wanted to build in DeFi because I love leverage and trading and all that stuff. And I started on this journey and met all these really cool, talented people that I met on my journey through time. And when I found Akshay, I decided I needed to pitch him on this idea. And even the way we met was pretty funny too. I'll let him tell that story. But along the way, we found all these cool people to build with, and in the true nature of a DAO, decided to do it in a decentralized nature. We building for a year together now.
Awesome. Actually, do you want to fill us in on that story then?
For sure. So, just quickly, context, I came across crypto 2013. I was fourth last year in college, doing computer science at Yale. And just this is cool. We can transfer value through digital means. This is awesome. So mess around then. And then I became really excited when Ethereum rolled around. And that's when I started more seriously aping in as a dev side of things. Although last 10 years, I basically was running like a tech kind of consultancy services business, like with a staff in India, traveling constantly. And that was great, but it's not as exciting as like, because I was very much involved in seeing how centralized authority can be exploitative, and so just like trying to go reverse against that is kind of like became like my core kind of like kind of ethos of what I wanted to do, and crypto and DeFi very much aligns with that. Now segueing into how I met Roman. It's working after I was doing the family business for about a decade. I'm like, I want to like try my hands at becoming more technical. So I worked at a real estate AI business. Went into it knowing like, okay, if I want to be really, really good at Web3, I have to be pretty proficient at Web2. So I was building there for about a year. Met two of my co-founders there actually. But towards the end of that year stunt, I was like about to go and start a Solidity bootcamp. And basically the last couple of weeks is like when Roman actually joined. And he heard from the grapevine, because his close buddy was working there, that there is some like, crypto geeks working there. And so when he joined, there is this like fun AI algorithm like randomly pairs two people in the company from like the sales side and the engineering side. Lo and behold, the two people that were assigned in Roman. And we're talking just like small talk, and towards the end he's like, "Hey, are you interested in crypto?" I'm like, "Am I?" That started a crazy kind of journey that from that day till now, it felt like I couldn't find a better person and team to work with, honestly, on this project. It's been really awesome ride so far.
That's so cool.
And I guess we have to ask this question. Grant, do you know what the term meet cute means?
Meet cute.
God damn it. I'm on a mission to make sure that everyone in DeFi knows what meet cute is. Meet cute is a term that they use for rom-coms. A wonderful way that the two actors in a rom-com meet, and then from there the story evolves into this wonderful thing. This is their meet cute. And I always bring it up. No one knows what it is except a couple of my friends. So this is their meet cute. Is wonderful because now the beautiful story is Savvy, right?
Yeah, man. It's really funny because we couldn't have predicted this. Literally, the founders found each other through an AI algorithm, right? So it's like serendipitous.
A lot of pitch decks I see from day to day would have that as like their first slide.
Maybe we should. Oh,
yeah, it's great.
So I found these guys through like a couple months after they started. I joined up. My background is I went to Michigan, played soccer in Michigan, then got hurt, and ended up saying, well, I should probably learn how to do things. So I worked at Google as like interned at Google on the elections and issues advocacy team, and then went into management consulting at Bain, and then after that joined a startup. It got bought, and then helped was the first employee founder at another startup that also got acquired. And then got into the product development consulting world of like, okay, how do you build better, more sustainable businesses, and doing that through developing better products holistically. I did that, and this is actually where I found the not crypto itself, but the tangential part of crypto, which was peer-to-peer lending. I did a whole jobs to be done study on both sides of the market. Why do people lend? Why do people borrow? And understanding those and how it apply. What I have found getting deeper into crypto is a lot of those people that I interviewed then are the same people that got into crypto and a few years later. And then so I did more product development consulting with kind of a bunch of the companies I can't really name now. But after I did that, I got into that and found crypto because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand what this world was and what DeFi was. And the more and more I learn about it, the more I find it's the same issues we've had in many places. It's just on a different platform, on a fundamentally different platform. So building a scalable business still applies, building all these other things still apply, but some of the fundamentals are different that give us different context to how we're building it. And now we're building Savvy.
It's quite refreshing to see a team of, that are extremely well balanced. There's some teams that are very, very tech heavy and don't want to do any of the forward facing or marketing stuff. And then there's not naming any names, but there's a lot of teams that want to do all the marketing stuff and don't want to do a lot of marketing stuff and chase aliens around, if you can read between the lines who I'm talking about there. If you've seen that in the news this week. But it's nice to see a well-balanced team, to be honest. And I'd explain it. I wouldn't say meet cute. I'd probably say founder market fit. I don't know if I'd be allowed to type in meet cute if I was on a work laptop.
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
don't think anyone uses that word.
No, I'll try and spread the good word, Alex. I'll try
Thank you.
and keep
Appreciate it,
bringing
Grant.
Yeah, he's on a mission.
So who wants to give us a high level of Savvy? I'm pretty sure some people who are listening to this will have seen this come across the timeline now, because you guys are doing a really good job of getting it out in front of people's faces. So, Roman, do you want to give us a high level, and if anyone else wants to chip in off the back of it, let's go for it.
Yeah, I would love to. So, what is Savvy, right? Savvy is a non-liquidating and auto-repaying CDP, collateralized debt position. The interesting part about Savvy is that it's interest-free, right? So we don't charge anyone to take out this loan, and you can do stables, ETH and BTC derivatives, and you do not need to worry about liquidations with Savvy, because the asset that you're minting when you take out a loan is actually a synthetic version or mirror version of the deposit. So essentially, your loans are self-repaying and non-liquidating with Savvy. And we just went live on the Arbitrum chain. So we're really excited for that.
Nice. Alex, do you want me to pop this on the screen, what you've got? Do you want, so we can talk through it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to present, and I'm not sure if I'm doing it.
All right, let me flick it on. So yeah, that should be good now. But because I think I've seen this previously, and it makes an awful lot of sense of people. And if people are listening on Spotify, just head over to YouTube. It's all on there. It's a lot easier to follow that way. But trust me, it makes a lot of sense. It's a really good product. So I'll let you take it away, Alex.
And Roman, if you want to go ahead and kind of dive into the problem and the solution, we can go through the rest.
Totally, yeah. So part of the space in DeFi is that you have a lot of wonderful protocols that allow you to leverage your crypto and open finance without without needing to ask for permission, right? So that's one of the wonderful things about the composability of our space. However, we do see that in DeFi, because it's still so nascent and new, you have liquidity issues and crunches that can cause extreme volatility on price of these tokens. And with leverage, you have to be really careful, right? So one of the biggest problems we have in this space is that borrowers need to actively manage their leverage constantly to avoid liquidation. And it's a real tangible stress that makes it really difficult to, DeFi in general, because most people are constantly worried about, being liquidated or not being liquidated, and it stops them from really enacting the strategies that they want to try to do. So what we decided to do was build a protocol that allows you to take advantage of all those DeFi yields that exist in the space and be able to leverage them safely. So effectively, we created a system that allows you to use yield-bearing assets and yield-bearing cryptos to borrow against it and leverage against your future yields. And you don't have to worry about liquidating yourself because there's no counterparty. And since the asset that you created mirrors the one you came with, the debt's always tracking whatever you have, right? So whatever you deposited. So this becomes a very easy system to use, however you want, right? You can be a very advanced type of trader DeFi user where you can, take that synthetic and turn it into other assets. You can delta neutral hedge with it if you're worried about volatility. You can go long into the same position if you want. So there's no shortage of what you can do with the synthetic asset after you mint it. The idea is that you're never at risk of being liquidated by the lending protocol because the collateral that you took and the asset you created mirror each other. So that's the key component.
And I guess we'll stop there, Grant, because we don't want to go through our entire pitch deck with you. But does this make sense so far?
Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna ask. So if people are wondering, because immediately where my mind went there was so with the specific assets that you're depositing, where are the assets being routed to, or are they having to pick up the yield bearing assets themselves, or are they kind of on an automated strategy as soon as they're deposited on the back end on Savvy? Do they have to worry about it? If I come with some ETH, what's my user journey look like there?
Sure, I can take a crack at that. So, essentially, there's different phases of the project. So right now we're going through the kind of the liquidity generating stage, and for that, one of the more kind of core kind of purposes of the synthetic. So right now, we're encouraging people through our market making campaign to come in, deposit in our yield strategies. We started with the most conservative, most robust ones, which is Aave. So they won't have the highest yields, but what we effectively allowing people to do is go in, deposit, borrow, and then go and kind of start providing liquidity in our Trader Joe, liquidity book pools. So there we have 3 pools for 3 respective asset types: ETH, Bitcoin, and stables. And so we're encouraging a lot of folks to go and take out loans and then go and kind of park in the pools there, so they can start kind of laying a stable like foundation for our synthetics to kind of hold price correlation. And then from there, we'll just keep plugging in much more exciting yield strategies that will make those loans even more enticing as we expand. So that's kind of the stage we're at right now.
Awesome. So what in kind of future, is there a how do you envisage those strategies being kind of brought to the table? Will it be kind of like a DAO discussion? Will it be kind of people putting proposals up, this is what you should do? Could you even foresee other protocols come in and say, look, can you implement our strategy on the back end? It helps us, we're getting TVL, your users are getting yield at the back of it. Like, how do you think that thing plays out in its entirety?
Totally DAO oriented, right? So in the beginning, we see ourselves as simply custodians of the code. The initial vaults that we built out, like the first set, were chosen based on various criteria, like how safe the code is, how trusted the protocol is, how much liquidity is in that specific vault that we're building on top of, any counter smart contract risk, counterparty risk that we have to be aware of. So we have like a whole checklist of things that we go through. But the idea is to build this into a fully functioning DAO, so that over time we can progressively decentralize governance and decision making and put it into the hands of our community, which is actually really, really smart. Like, we have a lot of people that have joined the community and have been in many different other DeFi projects that have a lot of experience and are bringing great ideas and great experience to the table. So we feel really confident that over time we'll be able to create the proper and educated community, because like we're all savvy folks, but the idea is that we want to decentralize everything that we can, and the decision-making process for like what vault strategies, what the debt ceilings on those vault strategies and everything in between will eventually be seeded to the whole community and be built together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There are also, it baffles me every single time. There's so many smart people just kicking around Telegram and Discord, and some of the ideas that they come up with. And like, because the space is so fast paced, you think you understand everything one day, and then the next day it's like, shit, we've got a full new dynamic at play here. And you kind of need that kind of collective structure to be posting ideas, even if some of them like a little bit rubbish at times. Yeah. But I think having that kind of collective hive mind looking at stuff and always thinking in the back of the mind, could Savvy use this? I think it's the best way forward, I think. So with the initial collateral, so we've got ETH, BTC, and stables. So what was the decision with Trader Joe? Obviously, I'm a Trader Joe fanboy, and I love it. I think Liquidity Book's absolutely incredible. And if Blues listen to this, he'll know he's came on here once or twice now himself. But does that help you guys in any way with depth of liquidity around the kind of the mintable assets? Like, what's the kind of thinking and the dynamic at play here? Because it feels like it's a great fit from my perspective. But I'd love to kind of think and pick your brains on why Trader Joe was like the DEX of choice.
Well, I have been using Trader Joe for quite some time myself. So I'm like a power user of their product, and I feel intimately connected to their protocol in many ways, right? Like, I've been able to trade large quantities on there. I've had low slippage. I've had, really interesting like projects go through there and provide liquidity. Like, I was pretty early in Wonderland at one point, and they started there. So like, I was exposed to many projects through Trader Joe. So I've always felt like they were a very powerful product and a really cool team. And then I got a chance to meet them several times in IRL. And when we learned about the liquidity book first coming out, like last year, I think around September, maybe October time, I instantly realized that was probably the best version of anything that Uniswap came with V3, right? So this was like a really, really cool updated version of that concept with so many more things that are now just coming out in like Unity v4 and other dexes. They were like ahead of time. I want to fully credit that team for having some foresight and vision there. And then, the technical aspects, like they're really powerful on the liquidity book, and we can dive into that a little bit too if you want. But like me and Akshay were talking about it and how powerful it is when we're using testnet to kind of play around with the stable swap pools, and it was really joy.
Awesome.
I'll throw in there that there's kind of three main reasons why we went with Trader Joe. One is like the liquidity book fundamentally helps us with the biggest risk that the protocol has, which is like a potential like depegging, right? The liquidity book helps that significantly. And to Roman's credit, he saw that immediately. The second thing is that from a community standpoint, they have done a terrific job building a community, and it's something that we admire and strive to do. And also, they have a community that when we've interacted with them, we vibe with them, both the community and the team. We're like, we enjoy working with them, and it just makes everything so much easier. And then thirdly, like I kind of mentioned this previously, but I find that in DeFi and when you're building a protocol, period, it's nice to have kind of people that you're building with, but also people you can kind of look up to and go to for guidance and ask them questions, and people you can strive with and will help you lever up. We really see Trader Joe as people like that for us. They are our peers, but they've also gone to multiple chains. They have built out this community. We can work with them. They have a terrific art team. So for us, it's kind of those three main things that make them an ideal pairing to initially start to work with them on that. And also because like at the end of the day, their products just keep banging. So like, why else would we work with them, right?
Yeah, they won't stop those guys either. They like Unity 4 has just been announced, but that I'm pretty sure the Trader Joe team will have something up their sleeve. And as you say, it's kind of funny to see Uni V4 and their announcements of what they think will be coming onto the market, while Trader Joe's kind of already implemented 75% of it or whatever. So kudos Fish and Blue and team. So can we get into a couple more like the product details? So can we just to kind of like solidify it a little bit? So I've in this hypothetical situation, when everything's all rolled out following kind of token generation event, everything's kind of up and running. I've got some ETH, right? I'm long-term ETH bull, or I might even have some stETH, depending on like what I'm kind of holding at the time. I think liquid staking tokens are probably going to displace people just holding native ETH. So I come to Savvy. What am I able to do there? Can I completely lever up? Can I just take a loan out on that? I just want to kind of solidify it for the audience so they kind of know what we're working with here.
Grant, would you mind just putting the slides up so we can talk people through it to see it? Thanks.
There we go.
Nice. So go ahead, Akshay or Roman.
You're talking to me as basically I'm a perma bull for ETH. The early days I bought ETH and I told myself I will never sell this, right? But hey, I have my liquidity needs. I'm trying to live life. So essentially, the way I would go about it is I come in with ETH, and either I already have it wrapped into a liquid staking derivative, like we're huge fans of a Sheet or W staked ETH or any of these other LS DeFi projects coming out, or I'm just sitting on ETH or I'm sitting on WETH. Any of those would be acceptable deposit. And now you come in with those, you put it in, you see a yield strategy that you like. Let's say, like I said, it's either staking, LPing, various strategies we'll have. They're related to ETH. You come in, deposit either the yield token or the actual ETH token as much as you want. Let's say I have 10 ETH, I put that in. I pick that strategy. I see it's earning me, let's say 10% yield. Great. Now against that 10 ETH that's deposited, I can take out a loan up to 50% of my collateral. So in this case, it would be 5 Savvy ETH. I can take that out now, and now I can go and do whatever I want my loan. Since I minted a new token, it's not a transfer. I didn't swap. I just took out a new kind of a loan. I can go and use that. Either I can go and swap it back into ETH and kind of do a looping strategy. Since we only allow up to 50% borrowing, if you do that, you can only lever up to 2x max. But that you just effectively can, without having liquidation risk there, you've already just doubled your APY if you go that approach. If you're just, as opposed to just regular, like putting the ETH into, liquid staking. So that's one cool strategy. Another one would be like you go in and you use it to degen into NFTs, or you swap into kind of cash, or like what I like doing is putting it into, let's say, a completely different investment. And let's say now if it's earning you like 5 to 10%, let's say it's earning you 10% yield, effectively, you pay off your debt over time. Let's say the loan itself, you've effectively increased your capital efficiency quite a bit without taking on liquidation risk. And now your core principal savings never gets eroded. Like, they always say in Finance 101, never erode your savings. So this is a way to kind of protect that while kind of expanding its efficiency without having to like stress and look at kind of price fluctuations. And then what's nice is that like that existing yield strategy that you'd see put into, let's say that starts going down and you see a much more attractive one, you can then seamlessly kind of switch over without having to unwrap and wrap your position again. Nice. So that way you have full flexibility. If you want to take your collateral back, you could always take that back minus liabilities. So that way you're never locked up into anything. And so that kind of flexibility is really nice with this product. I'm really looking for it. I built this for myself effectively, and then everyone else can use it if they want. But
I was going to say, because I don't know who I was speaking to previously. I think it was like Dankua, who's got they've got like a validating business, and I think they're primarily focused on the Cosmos ecosystem. But he honestly couldn't believe that I keep near enough everything I have in life on chain, and I just look after everything. And then when I need to take assets off to buy coffee or pay for rent, I'll do whatever I need to do. I just remove it and then off ramp it. And he couldn't wrap his head around that. But I thought that's just what everyone did who worked in this space. So products like this, where if I'm just going to be sat on like a bag of ETH or I've got a lot of Bitcoin recently, probably the most I've held in a long time. But for this, if I'm just going to sit on it and yield on it, and then if I need to kind of pay for anything, I don't necessarily want to unwind the position. But for stuff like this, I can obviously I'd be able to borrow against it. I'd be able to off ramp it as and when I needed to.
So this is where we love to ask people, how would you use Savvy? And it sounds like this is the way that you would use Savvy, right? Obviously not financial advice.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
But yeah, what would you do? Like, kind of tell us, like, walk us through how you could see yourself using Savvy.
So for me personally, I'd definitely be like a long-term staked ETH or a long-term Bitcoin holding. I think particularly in this market, I don't really want to eat long-term volatility. I will trade them when I get a little bit impulsive, but for the most part, like a large portion of the portfolio, Bitcoin, ETH. And then, as I say, if I'm kind of, I don't know, I might be going away. I'm going to Greece Friday. I might want to take a little bit off the table there, but I don't want to unwind the position. Like, I just want to keep everything as it is. I know where everything is and yield on it. And then I'd probably just off ramp it. The issue is, for me personally, it's with the kind of off ramps getting kind of a little bit like going through choke point, as they say. But I think there's a lot more self-custody solutions that are coming onto the market. So I'd absolutely love to see Savvy integrated with a couple of those, like guys like Holy Held and stuff like that, because that's just a dream for me. If I'm keeping everything self-custody and yield on it, I want to off ramp to buy something. That's how I'd use it. That's just like plain and simple how I'd use it. I'm kind of doing that already without earning the additional yield on top of it. Obviously earning some staked ETH yield, but for me, if that was an option, and obviously there's a few people on the market that you can do that with, but like that's typically how I'd envisage using it properly. Were we speaking about awesome. Fire before, Alex? Were we speaking about the?
That's how I plan to use it. One of our friends is already doing something like that, where he's basically paying for his life using kind of like something that he's jerry-rigged together, right? And like the three of us, Roman, Akshay, like we all have different ways we want to use it. Akshay thinks about using Savvy, or he's used Savvy as use the equivalent of Savvy for an angel investment. Roman has done it to go do NFT, to buy NFTs. For me, I plan to do it to pay for my entire life. Roman always jokes with his wife. He wants to get a self-repaying house for her. But for me, I want it to pay for my life. And the amount of capital efficiency you can have when you start to use something like Savvy is incredible. We use the example of a house, right? So if you just go and buy a house and you hope the house appreciates in value, like that's great. It's one way to accrue to potentially make gains on that. But you're actually missing out on the other capital efficiency part of it. If you buy a house, hope it appreciates in value, and you move someone in, charge them rent, now you have two revenue streams off of that single asset. That's how we're using Savvy. That's like, so you have two revenue streams off of your ETH that you're holding, off your BTC that you're holding. And now, well, hopefully you won't have to work as many hours, Grant, and you can go to Greece more often.
Yeah, fingers crossed, eh? Is there any, I know you said with the 50% collateralization ratio, you probably get up to around 2x. Is there any way to kind of automate that, or are people going to have to manually do that initially and then kind of work around that? And my other question would be, is there any way, say if I deposited ETH and I wanted to borrow Savvy USD, would that be able to be automated whatsoever, or is that going to have to be a manual process? Because there's obviously some interesting strategies you can pull up there if you want to start doing that in automated fashion.
Just to start with, we're going to keep everything pretty much manual, but we're playing around with some interesting kind of multi-call type kind of solutions where you can crunch up a bunch of transactions that are more popular, like strategies that are more popular into more simplified examples. One, for instance, that we're doing is this market making campaign is we're asking people to deposit, borrow, self-liquidate, withdraw, deposit into LP. That's 6-7 steps, right? And so we already spun up a contract that kind of crunches all that we're going to be deploying soon. But we were trying to we're working out a solution that we can take cool strategies that the community likes using and find ways to simplify that. So roadmap stuff, that off-ramping, credit card solutions, all those are fun things that we have solutions kind of already mapped out, and it's just a matter of prioritizing execution on them.
Since we launched only a few days ago, we've been talking to a lot of projects about finding additional use cases for the DeFi primitives like the SVUSD and SVBTC and ETH. In a few weeks, you'll see a lot of news coming about the partnerships and protocols that we've built on top of, which would start generating some very interesting yield opportunities. And then, yes, at some point, we'll be creating more automation tools for people to, make their DeFi strategy even more composable. So to answer your last question, if someone has, let's say, ETH or BTC in V1, they're borrowing the same asset, and that asset is then denominated in their debt position, right? So your Bitcoin, it's Savvy Bitcoin, etc. The person themselves can obviously swap into USDC or something else after, and they don't have to worry because their debt position is still denominated in Bitcoins. So it doesn't matter where the Bitcoin price goes to that user. But that's one extra transaction that they have to do and all of that stuff. So the good folks at Savvy are powerful engineers like Akshay and Ramsey and Pat. They're working on some cool stuff. So we do want to make it ultimately a very easy and comfortable user experience to the point where we would love to obfuscate even things that people are used to on the day-to-day, connect your wallet and stuff like that. In an ideal world, right? We want this space to scale and we want this to be adopted more. There's still UI, UX issues that all protocols face, and it's part of the space. And we're working closely with a bunch of protocols to help create better standards and really make the experience easier. So in the future, we totally envision not only having a person be able to come in with one asset, borrow something else through the magic of Zapper contracts, but also to make it easy for on-ramp, off-ramp. Remittance use cases obviously are a big part for us as well. So we'll be working on many different use cases for the synthetic primitives.
Nice. Feels like you guys aren't just happy to settle to build with inside the bubble, which is kind of nice because a lot of people just forget that they have to find product market fit in the real world as well, not just this weird and wonderful crypto space, which is kind of refreshing to hear, to be honest.
I would love my mom to use it.
I mean, before we even launched and made it public facing, about 100K of funds aped into our project. So that felt pretty good about that.
To be clear about that, we were actually live on a Trader Joe on a Trader Joe AMA. And we hadn't released it publicly. We were still checking a few things. Some of the users on on the Trader Joe AMA found the link and started depositing. So before we were done with the Trader Joe AMA, we already had 80K of funds. And we were like, the hell? How did you guys find this? Like we didn't publicly say this to anybody. So that felt really good in terms of product market fit. But I will say a lot of people talk about like, oh, we need to find the next billion users and do all that. But truthfully, Roman like actually lives that. Like the days, like in the early days of our launch, I keep, so my grandfather was a preacher. I keep referring to Roman as like a preacher of crypto because the dude is just proselytizing everywhere. He actually onboarded my dad, my 67-year-old dad, into crypto and was like, all right, you have to like do this and do that and do that. So when people talk about like onboarding people into crypto, like Roman actually lives that, breathes that, and does it.
Doing the business. So can we, I know what I'm going to get asked about this if I don't bring it up. Can we get can we do some Savvy token? What can you kind of tell us about that? What's the best way for people to maybe not buy it, earn it, if they want to take part in the token generation event? Like what do people need to know about it effectively?
Yeah. So what do people need to know about Savvy? Well, number one, we will have a utility governance token, which is called SVY. It does a couple of things, like give you access to become a member of the DAO, gives you access to the protocol itself, because these contracts at some point will require you to hold a little bit of SVY to be able to utilize. And then most importantly, you'll be able to use SVY for governance, as well as other things that are related to governance, making decisions on like what the protocol will do, what other assets we might accept. We do plan on being an omni-chain solution. So which chains we build on top of will also be dictated by this. And there's actually a really interesting part to Savvy, which we took quite a bit of time trying to come up with. So in all lending protocols today, all collateralized debt protocols, all synthetic asset protocols, the tokens are generally created with one thought in mind most of the time. It's kind of like, how do I convince people to go provide liquidity into a secondary market, and therefore I'll pay them for their capital. It's kind of mercenary in that way. And it's really long-term, probably not sustainable, as we've come to see. So we wanted to make sure that this system was a little bit more forgiving, and was also including people that were on the other side of the protocol, like actual users and not just market makers, right? Because both are important. So with SVY, when you're staking it into vote escrow mode in VE Savvy, you actually have this added benefit of having a secondary yield source if you are a borrower. So no protocol out there has this kind of setup, right? So when we turn on vote escrow, if you have assets, if you're providing LP, or you have just deposited into the protocol, but you didn't actually use the main use case, which is that synthetic leverage, you wouldn't be eligible for a boosted yield. So we're literally telling borrowers that it makes more sense to keep leveraging their useful assets so that they can then be more capital efficient. So long story short, TLDR, Savvy ends up rewarding everyone from market makers to actual users and participants of the protocol in several ways. So yeah, the token's coming. It's coming in hot. There's definitely a lot of interest coming for that. People are now, the reason why they're market making is because there are no emissions yet. We did start tracking the emissions as of Thursday. So we have like a specific timestamp on the blockchain for when we started this. And people are coming in because they see the value of value accrual. So part of what we do is when Savvy generates revenue, it would be also using that revenue to create more buy pressure on SVY. So it won't just be a token that people want to sell and trade, but actually want to hold on to it because there are various use cases that will be unlocked with it.
I just want to add that in order to calculate these rewards, Trader Joe didn't even create subgraphs for their latest version of LB, so we decided to build it for them. So you'll see that soon.
Nice.
Today,
So Grant, just to be clear, there's like a few different ways to interact with the protocol right now, right? So we have our market making rewards our market making campaign, right? Which is we have market making campaign. You come and deposit and take out a Savvy credit line, and then thirdly, you can participate in the TGE. These three are unique to each one. It might be different use cases for people, but we also believe that they're appealing enough for people to do all three of them together. The first one, the market making rewards campaign, is we have these liquidity pools that are live on Trader Joe. You can come deposit into a stable swap pools and kind of like LP into a stable swap pool, and then earn SVY rewards over time. Second one is deposit, borrow from Savvy, take out the Savvy credit line, right? That's where we were talking about this fire concept, this being able to go to Greece and kind of take some off the table and do that, buy NFTs, etc. The third one is this TGE, right? The token sale event that we'll have more information on coming up in the next 4 to 6 weeks. That one is when the SVY will be live. You can purchase it. You can do all these different things, etc. But now the fourth one, so as this all happens, is that once they all will start to tie together, because as a Savvy user, if you've taken out the credit line and you hold the token and then you stake SVY through some mechanisms that we have, you'll be able to earn that boosted SVY kind of yield. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. So there's multiple ways for everyone who's listening to be able to get their hands on it, and you can kind of get started already without the token being live on Trader Joe. If people are struggling on how to add liquidity on Liquidity Book, I've got a video up there of me rambling for around 45 minutes that shows you how to use Liquidity Book. So if anyone wants to watch that, they can, and that might get you started.
And I assume we'll also put in our show notes. We have a bunch of links for you we walk you through how to do this, how to go provide liquidity, how to do all those things. We have a blog post that talks about how to market make and what all that is. But the truth of the matter is that as you start to get into Savvy, you'll realize both there's some simplicity and there's also some complexities that will allow you to choose which way is the best way for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Can I ask about kind of like revenue capture or value capture from the protocol? At what point in the kind of product lifecycle do fees get captured and kind of distributed?
Yeah. So like I said in the beginning, we actually do not charge for taking out the loan. So it's 0 interest loan. The yield that gets generated from your base deposit, there's 2 things that happen. One, Savvy Treasury is getting 10% of the yield that's coming in from your base deposit. So that's kind of like risk-free value for the protocol. And it's, you could say, commission of sorts. Then the other 90% of the yield that gets generated from your or the user's base deposit goes into the Savvy Swap and Savvy Sage contracts. That becomes protocol control liquidity, and it does a couple things. One, it reduces your debt balance in the system. So if you owed us or you owed Savvy, some crypto from your loan, you now owe less. And that allows the user to do 2 things. They can either take out more leverage, right, because they're basically incentivized to do so, or they can withdraw a corresponding amount of their base token or their base crypto if they don't want to use their protocol anymore and are just basically trying to exit their position. So a really easy way to say this is that the protocol makes yield on top of yield. And then we utilize that incoming yield to deepen the secondary markets, like for the Savvy synthetic assets. We use that to go with like treasury strategies for like our partners and other protocols. So, without naming names, there's a few protocols we're working with that we'll be releasing soon, and we have to have certain capital requirements to be able to really like tap into the best yield that product can offer. So we're building these things out. So the idea is that over time, the liquidity will get deeper, obviously.
In terms of how we're going to be kind of like using the yield to kind of manage and rebalance and keep the price correlation strong, keep the pools deep. Since we're working with Trader Joe's, awesome concentrated liquidity, setup, we're taking like inspiration from like the Frax AMO model, but taking it up a notch and making it compatible with concentrated liquidity. And so we're really excited about kind of building that for ourselves, and then hopefully other people might find that useful as well. So awesome. That the 462 standard, 26 standard, we're trying to enforce across all of our strategies. Bunch of things like this on the technical side, we were trying to like push forward and then make it open source so that hopefully like for me, like the way I've been inspired by projects, I would love to see someone kind of building on us or taking some of our ideas.
And that's an important point, Greg, because you asked about like how Savvy like makes money, where the fees are accrued and stuff. And what's an interesting thing about DeFi is that people can play many roles. They can be a user of the protocol. They could potentially purchase the token and do all these different things. So our answer will depend on who you are and what you do. But the truth of the matter is that Savvy it all ends up tying together in this beautiful flywheel, right? So if you are even like Savvy is set up to both make sense for the user of Savvy, of the credit line, to make sense for the protocol, and to make sense for DeFi overall. Meaning, when a user comes in, we make money when you make money. We make 10% of the yield when you make money. We're not making money when you get screwed and you get liquidated. We make money when you make money, right? Savvy overall can then go and yield farm. And so the overall DeFi does better and does better for chain overall. So the concept is that because we are set up, like there's multiple ways that Savvy can help people make money, including the purchasers of the SVY token. Because we'll have a redemption program, it turns into this beautiful flywheel that the more you dive into it, the more you'll see that Roman's taken a bunch of time to figure out how this all connects together.
I mean, the nature of the project is it's sticky. So as yield comes in, people are not going to withdraw that yield. It's going to kind of sit there. And so we get an opportunity to just play with that yield and actually earn more revenue in a contract non-custodial way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I suppose it's aligned incentives as well, because you guys, if there's 10% kind of, I suppose, commission, performance fee, I don't know how you want to what the terminology is around that. Like you guys are constantly on the lookout for emergent strategies that are going to be safe for the user, and as you said, non-custodial, in a self-custodial way that allows the kind of protocol to make money and the user to make money as well. So there's kind of aligned incentives there, because. I suppose if it was all said and done and like there wasn't an incentive for you guys to continue to maintain and look for better yield and opportunities for depositors, then it's, it doesn't exactly play out well if that was the case. Is there anything I might have missed that you want to kind of bring up and we can wrap it up with? Because I know there's
we touched on the market making campaign that's gone off. Like we kicked off our project a week ago. Not a single smart contract bug. I've shipped many products in the past too, and I always wake up at night with alarms. But this time, I guess because we spent a year prepping, went through the audits. There was no critical issues found by Helen Warren. We spent a year so much internal testing that finally when it came to pushing it, because this stuff is immutable, it was really good to see that it was smooth. But now we've kind of started off our market making campaign. And so probably this is a good kind of opportunity, ask people, I don't know when they'll see this interview, but if they're around before the TGE happens, that's a good way to earn a lot of kind of, by providing liquidity in Trader Joe's, liquidity book, no impermanent loss. So you're literally taking your stables or Bitcoin or ETH and kind of farming it without having to worry about impermanent loss, and as a way, we're kind of measuring that on chain, and we'll airdrop the corresponding Savvy tokens after the TGE. That we built a calculator to see exactly how it is. We're today or tomorrow latest, we're going to be launching out the actual kind of live real-time indexer, so you can see on the dApp itself what your accrued rewards is. So we definitely encourage participation in that. And furthermore, we kicked off a kind of Galaxy NFT campaign. About the amount of emissions we're supplying to the main LB pools, we're taking about 5% of that and supplying it to. So if you're effectively go on to Galaxy, if you have ever participated with any of our partners, or we're in our participated in our fair launch on Avalanche, or are an OG member in our Discord group, and there's a bunch of conditions. If you fulfill any of those conditions, you can mint this Galaxy NFT. If you're a holder of this NFT, you will get a boost on the rewards accrued. And so we definitely encourage that, and look forward to seeing this protocol blossom.
Awesome, love it, gents. Thanks for joining us.
And Grant, the last thing I'll say is that
I'm going to wrap up with.
Yeah, I believe as exactly what Akshay mentioned about the Galaxy NFT boost. I believe we're working on for LARP holders. We'll have some sort of utility for that. By the time this video comes out, there should be. The LARP holders should get added to the Galaxy campaign, so you can get your boost just for having that LARP NFT. One of the first utilities for the LARP NFT. I'm sure there'll be many more.
Yeah, so people who have completed Quest 1, Quest for LARP 1, we're going to bring forward some of the benefits of the LARP NFT. So there you go. We really appreciate it as well, guys. And really nice to see it all in action. But I couldn't wish to kick it off.
The last thing I'll say, Grant, the last thing I'll say, Grant, is like, truthfully, Savvy, like whenever you do end up seeing this, we're all doxed. We are all in the Discords. We're all answering questions. We're around. If somebody wants to jump on a call and has ideas or thoughts, we're down to listen. We are trying to build a long-term sustainable business in DeFi, and we're trying to do it while doxed, and we're trying to do it while being like customer focused, right? So we're around to like help you guys and to speak to you, and we truly believe in the DAO idea. So, and it's not just our community, but the people who are helping us build this. So for whenever you do see this, please reach out to us, join our Discord, follow us on Telegram, reach out to us, DM us, because we're trying to build this with our community. So thank you so much for having us.
Awesome. Anytime. And any of those links that Alex has just mentioned, I'll drop them below. And yeah, reach out. They don't buy it. They're extremely friendly. So yeah, thanks again, gents. And we'll speak to you next time.